The curse of the silent village. The village of Evergreen was surrounded by dense forests. It was a quiet and peaceful place isolated from the world. For those wanting to escape the chaos of city life. Young photographer Daniel had moved here to photograph the peace and beauty of nature. He had moved here. At first, everything seemed calm. But beneath the silence of the village lay a dark secret. One morning, Daniel decided to explore the surroundings of the village. While photographing the old paths, stone houses, and nature, he took a picture of the abandoned old well in the center of the village. However, he was taken aback while examining the photos. Around the well, silhouettes resembling human figures, but invisible to the naked eye, had appeared. These mysterious figures were in different positions in each photo. Daniel decided to ask the villagers about the well's history. People gave him evasive answers and were reluctant to discuss the topic. Daniel's curiosity was growing. One night, Daniel went to the home of one of the village's elderly elders. He went to Marta's house to chat with her. Faced with the young man's persistence, Marta took a deep breath and began to tell the story. Decades ago, mysterious events occurred in this village. One night, a young man disappeared near the well. No one could find him. Afterwards, the villagers said they heard strange noises coming from near the well. A few years later, a young girl disappeared in the same way. Since that day, everyone in the village stayed away from the well. What Marta told fueled Daniel's curiosity even more. He returned home with questions in his mind, but the unsettling feeling inside him wouldn't let him sleep. Daniel's sleeplessness increased at night. One night, he took his camera and went to the well. When he arrived there, he heard faint whispers. His heart was racing, but he couldn't turn back. As he approached the well, he saw indistinct shapes moving in the deep darkness. Gathering his courage, when he looked down, he saw a light at the bottom of the well. When he looked more carefully, he noticed the light was moving and floating upwards. Daniel suddenly heard footsteps coming from behind him. But when he turned around, he couldn't see anyone. He left the place in fear. The next day, while Daniel was reviewing the photos again, he saw strange shadows appearing inside the well. Now, he understood that these were not just photo errors. To uncover the truth, he visited Marta again. Marta shook her head sadly. The darkness of the well never releases those who fall into it. These shadows are their lost souls. They are calling you too. Daniel's anxiety increased, but his desire to uncover the truth was stronger. One night, Daniel decided to descend into the depths of the well. Taking a long rope, he began to lower himself into the well. As he descended deeper, the darkness and silence increased. When he reached the bottom of the well, he noticed the entrance to a cave. Upon entering, he saw ancient writings and drawings on the walls. These told the stories of people who lived years ago. At the end of the cave, he found the lost girl's diary. In diary, girl talked dark entities living inside well, talking about dark beings. To calm these entities, they made sacrifices. Suddenly, Daniel heard a sound, and when he turned around, he saw shadows surrounding him. Daniel tried to find a way out, but the entrance to the cave was now closed. The shadows were pulling him into their world. He had learned the village's secret, but now, could he ever get out? Life continued in the village of Evergreen. However, a new whisper echoed from the depths of the well. Now from the silent screams of the year and the whispers of souls waiting to be saved. The Forbidden Forest. For the residents of Rosehill village, the dense and dark forest nearby had been a great mystery for years. According to rumors, no one who entered the forest had ever returned. However, the young archaeologist Eleanor had no intention of listening to these legends. Her courage and passion for discovery led her to uncover the secrets of this eerie forest. before starting her journey. First eliminated, headed to the village's abandoned old library. Inside, it was dusty, damp, and dimly lit. While browsing through the shelves, a notebook caught her attention. This notebook was lost in the forest years ago. Belonged to the famous explorer Albert Simmet. As Eleanor turned the pages of the notebook, of the forest, found notes about mysterious beings in his heart. The writings ended with warnings full of fear. The last pages were covered with unknown symbols. Eleanor's curiosity was much stronger than her fear. She took the notebook with her and set out. As she stepped into the forest, the atmosphere immediately changed. The sunlight weakened. The air became heavy, and the silence was strangely unsettling. While recording the surroundings with her camera, she suddenly heard rustling sounds coming from behind her, but when she turned around, there was nothing there. She felt like the forest was watching her. As she moved forward, the forest became denser, the air colder and more ominous. After a while, she realized she was lost. But an inner feeling kept pulling her deeper. After walking for hours, she reached a strange area. There was no sound here, neither birds nor the sound of the wind. This silence was very unsettling. She noticed old symbols on the trunk of a tree. These resembled the symbols in the notebook she found in the library. When she touched the symbols, a path dug into the ground opened up. Elida followed the stone steps leading downward, found herself in a hidden cave deep within the forest. There were more symbols and pictures on the walls. As she progressed through the cave, the pictures on the walls seemed to start moving. In these pictures, the stories of people entering the forest and disappearing were depicted. Then, she encountered a massive living tree at the end of the cave. The tree was moving, and its roots seemed to wriggle like creatures living beneath the soil. The tree began to speak to Eleanor inside her mind. "Are you like those who came here before, or are you different?" it whispered. Eleanor tried to back away in fear, but the tree held her. As she passed through a door that opened in the tree's trunk, she felt time and space shifting. Eleanor passing through the tree, she found herself in a completely different world. Here, the sky was constantly moving. Colors shone in shades she had never seen before. Strange creatures flying in the sky, watching her while spreading whispers in a different language. In the world Eleanor found herself in, she explored the depths of human consciousness. Fears, anxieties, forgotten memories were materializing in this place. Eleanor delves into the depths of her own subconscious. She had to embark on a journey. In this place where she couldn't perceive the passage of time, Eleanor used her courage and hope to find a way out. When she accepted all her fears and doubts, the path began to open. She returned to the cave by passing through a door that appeared in front of her. But this time the tree did not stop her, because Eleanor had faced her fears and had become stronger. When Eleanor stepped out of the forest, the world looked different. When she returned to the village, she realized many years passed and the village was abandoned. She understood that time flowed differently. Rosehill was now a ghost village. But for Eleanor, life was just beginning. She now knew that true fear was not outside, but hidden within a person. And she would continue her life accepting this. What she experienced in the heart of the forest would remain a secret that would accompany her forever. The last signal. The secrets of deep space. The space research ship named Nova 9, to search for life in distant galaxies, had left Earth. The scientists and astronauts on the ship, during this journey that lasted for years, were trying to solve the mysteries of the universe. However, the ship unexpectedly, in one of the darkest regions of space, began receiving a signal. Captain Eva gathered in the ship's control center, with science mark to analyze signal in the ship's control center. The signal did not resemble any known language or coding system. Moreover, the origin of the signal was not located on any star map. The ship's crew decided to follow the signal. As they got closer, strange events began to occur on the ship. Electronic devices were malfunctioning. Crew members were having strange dreams. When they finally reached the source of the signal, they encountered a massive and abandoned. They encountered the space station. When they stepped into the station, they saw that the interior was completely abandoned. But everywhere there were meals as if they had been suddenly left. Notes and personal belongings were present. Science Officer Mark, while checking the computer system, accessed the station's log and learned that the previous crew had also received the same signal, and later on the ship, regarding mental health, began to experience serious issues. The notes stated that the signal controls the mind. Some of the crew members' behaviors started to become strange. Some would whisper quietly while staring into the void of space. Some of them experienced dramatic memories from the past. Over and over again, the ship's captain, Olivia, realized that staying at the station was dangerous and decided to return. However, the ship's engines did not start. The signal no longer lets them go. The ship was practically trapped in this mysterious place. Captain Olivia, while exploring the deeper levels of the station, came across a laboratory. Inside, there were unknown creatures in glass tubes. These beings were samples of an alien species, although they didn't seem alive. As Olivia approached, they started to move and began to head towards her. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the computers. "You should never have come here. It's too late now." The laboratory doors suddenly closed. Olivia was trapped inside. The other crew members on the ship were racing against time to rescue the captain. However, unknown entities that had taken control of the station were blocking every move of the crew. In the dark corridors, strange sounds and signals echoing were trying to take over the crew's minds. Olivia, while desperately struggling to get out of the laboratory, the glass tubes began to crack. Assets are free, were set free. Could the Nova team handle this unknown force? Or would they be prisoners of this abandoned station forever? And the last message broadcasted from the ship system to the universe was, "Can you hear us? Help, please help." The secret of the shadow whispers beneath the silence. When Ava Raymond moved to the town of Crick, she was captivated by its tranquility and the beauty of nature. But soon after, she began to feel that behind the silence on the surface of the town, there was a strange unease. In the early days, while walking around her house, she heard faint creaks from the floor and whispers coming from afar. At first, she interpreted these as the ordinary sounds of an old house, but the oddities gradually increased. One night, she noticed an indistinct shadow passing by the window. When she peeked through the curtain, she saw no one, but the unease inside her was growing. One morning, when Ava entered the small cafe in the town center, she heard the locals whispering strange stories. The waitress, Lucy, told her to be careful and mentioned few years ago there were strange disappearances in the town. Ava became curious, and to learn more, she headed to the old library. While browsing through old newspapers in the library, she came across Ravenwood family, mysterious disappearance. In the news, it was reported that family members saw strange shadows in their home and disappeared a few days later. Ava's heart raced because she had seen similar shadows herself. That night, as Ava was getting ready to sleep in her room at home, she heard a rustling sound coming from the hallway. She opened the door with apprehension but saw nothing. Only the attic door at the end of the hallway was slightly ajar. A sound coming from inside seemed to be calling Ava upwards. gathering her courage when she went up. In the dusty and dark atmosphere of the attic, she began to move forward. Her eyes caught an old mirror standing in the corner. As she approached the mirror, she didn't see her own reflection. She saw a dark and shapeless shadow. "We've been waiting for you to come here," said the shadow in a hushed voice. Ava trembled with fear but couldn't manage to escape. The next day, Ava, to understand this experience she had, went to the home of the town's only wise elder, went to Miss Eliza's house. After the old woman listened to her carefully, she nodded with a composed expression. "You have also become their target," said the old woman. "These shadows are not the ghosts of those who lived in the past. They are the memories that the people in the town want to forget. They represent their fears and dark emotions." With the advice of the old woman, Ava decided to confront the shadows. When she returned home, the shadowy figure was waiting for her. "I'm not afraid of you," said Ava, gathering her courage. "I am the one who created you. You draw strength from me." The shadow grew in front of Ava, changed shape and surrounded her. But this time Ava did not run away. She closed her eyes and began to accept all the fears in her mind. In the face of Ava's acceptance, the shadow began to shrink and fade away. Eventually, the shadow completely disappeared. When Ava opened her eyes, she found herself back in her home. The silence was now peaceful. The next day, Ava went to the cafe and started meeting the townspeople. She now understood that the real secret of the town was not the shadows, but for people to accept and overcome the darkness within themselves. And while Ava lived in the town of Raywood, the shadows never visited her again. But when night fell and she looked outside the window, the flickering shadows in the distance were still waiting for the next person